And lastly, when we talk about the olfactory input and proprioception.
Yeah, so we're going through all the different senses.
Yeah, exactly.
The olfactory system is, I have no words all of a sudden. Is smell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was going back and forth with oral for some reason. This is my tired mind that's lost it all of a sudden. But our olfactory is a fancy word of our sense of smell. That's one of our chemical senses, so it responds to actual, molecules of particles that are in the air to tell us about what is in our environment. The olfactory system is very closely related to our gustatory system, so our sense of taste, and the soft palate on the roof of our mouth. It's kind of that soft, spongy lining, I think about it, between our mouth and our nose. And so, it's often people are quite surprised to realize if you lose your sense of smell, that food tastes completely, utterly different, and very, very, very bland. They are very, very interconnected. And I think we do use our olfactory systems in kind of interesting ways. If we relate it back to that example around how do we use sounds for spatial awareness, I think our olfactory system actually gives us some interesting information about spatial awareness too, if you think about the intensity of a smell, and often if there's something very intense in terms of scent in the environment, that often is giving a clue that's saying there's something close to me that has a really noxious smell, or perhaps I'm in a really small confined space, and that's why these smells are becoming more and more and more intense. And just like all the different sensory systems, we can be kind of the super smellers. You think about the wine sommeliers that can smell, or the perfume experts that can tell you about all these different notes, and we think they're just making stuff up, but they're having these, vivid experiences of that single sip that I don't appreciate, but I'm sure fascinated to hear them talk about those experiences.
Yeah, of course. And then there's some people that are so sensitive to smell, they say that they can taste it. And it's just like,
yes,
what you're talking
about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to note, especially when we have a lot of the aromatherapy and oil diffusers and that sort of thing, to be aware of. While yes, it's very pleasant for some people, it's not for other people. And I know I noticed that a lot, at least in Canada, we're more restrictive on the scents. Like a lot of places are fragrance free, but then you go down to the United States and fragrances are everywhere and everybody's loaded with perfume and cologne, and that can be very offensive and difficult for some people that are so sensitive to it.
Mm-hmm. And our olfactory systems are really, really, there's close links, right, between our olfactory system, our sense of smell, and our memories and our emotional centers of our brain. Which is quite unique for our other senses. But sometimes you get a smell and you might not even be able to pinpoint what that smell is or where it comes from. And suddenly you get this overwhelming feeling of warmth. I think about, there's this certain smell that I get that reminds me of my grandparents' house, or, my grandmother did tons and tons of knitting, and there's just this certain smell that those items hold that remind me of being in that home. But just as much, there are also those smells that can be extremely triggering and very, very distressing, that might not be necessarily, noxious in their intensity necessarily, but it was a smell that was present at a particular time during an experience that was very stressful or traumatic. And now suddenly that smell of somebody peeling a mandarin orange in the other room you're in this new state of arousal that is hard to describe and even explain, because what does my memory of this have to do with that smell of this orange? but all of those centers are really, really closely related. So it's a very powerful sense. And, with bringing up around essential oils and things, it's one that's really important that we give it the respect it deserves, I guess, right? And remembering that with all of these smells, an aromatherapy kit, that means 100 different things. And the scents that are in those kits are comprised of so many different things. And you might say that peppermint oil is generally, arousing and is really wonderful for waking the body up. But what type of peppermint oil are we talking about? There are so many different ones, and some are known to be, that many individuals are actually quite allergic to those smells, but they're being put into certain products because it's the cheapest oil that you can get. And that's where you really want to go to the experts and, the certified aromatherapists and different things that are, well versed in that side of it to do that fine tuning of kind of your smell diet, if you wanted to think about it in that way, of what's going to be the right cocktail of smells for you. That's so different for me.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. Are there any terms that we think we missed and might want to add? Or
I don't think so. It was very